Hey, what's up everybody? Bdf coming at you in another video. Alright, so decided to stay in the house today. Loved every second of it because I was able to draft a couple of basketball teams. As you guys know, that's one of my favorite things to do in the world. Fantasy basketball. And you know, slept a little bit. My stomach was acting up today. This was not a good stomach day for this particular person. Still having some of those same issues. I think it stems from eating the Mexican food that I had a couple days ago. I actually don't think it was the food that I was worried about eating. The fried food that I had on my birthday, I think was the Mexican food the next day. It didn't react well. I don't know. But I'm fine right now. I'm good. Just took a shower, did my exercise, stretched a little more than usual today. Haven't done any art, but I may do some later. But it's almost time for a meal. But I just want to make a therapy session first. And I feel pretty good as far as my own, you know, mindset is, you know, pertains to my own personal stuff. It's not what's bothering me. I want to use the word triggering. Watching how the Palestinian Americans are trying to get an opportunity to have their voice be heard at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, and being denied that. It's triggering, man. And I say this as a person who understands that there are so many different people on both sides of this fight, of different races, religions, creeds, sexual orientations, mindsets, backgrounds, etc. So for me, I can only speak consciously for myself. I would love to say for black people, but one of the people I'm most frustrated with was a black person who happened to be seen making fun of the protesters outside of the DNC. A brother who's part of this, who appeared to be, not to label him, but appeared to be of the LGBTQ community. Making fun of a lady who was on the blowhorn, essentially calling out the ages of people who had been murdered in Gaza. And I'm sure y'all probably seen him by now if you're following what I'm following, because he's everywhere. But it's, you know, he's a reflection of the propaganda machine working on a lot of us, and the selfishness of our culture, given the fact that I'm cool, so who cares who else is cool, so long as what I got going on keeps going. And that's what a lot of people are on. There's a black person running for president, or a half African American person, biracial person, in Kamala Harris, and a lot of black people have their identity politics, as many others have theirs, wrapped up in her winning. And if this were about 8 years ago, I would have too. But the genocide has awakened me, and the understanding of the carnage I'm not away from. I don't know that this individual is seeing everything I'm seeing, and if his mindset would be the same. Because as I've illustrated to you guys many times, protesters of different humanitarian things we've always seen over the years in this culture, and if you're not passionate about it, then it's just over there. And it can be rather disruptive if you're passionate about something and they're coming in screaming about whatever it is they care about. We do this to everybody who protests anything, PETA, you name it. It's irritating if we don't care about it. That we don't care about it is something we need to examine within our culture. So those who are still in that space, I can't say I'm any better. I think I'm older and have learned and grown through that. But the frustration I feel toward those people, I would have to then reflect on who I was when I was in my 20s, and just how many different things I ignored just the same. But with that being said, he really showed his backside, and I thought he really disgraced his people and his ancestors in that situation. As a black man, I have to say that, because I think we have been had some of these same plays run on us. People didn't want us to stand up against what was happening to us. People didn't want us to have our freedom. It was worked in the law that we didn't have our freedom. We were vilified as bad guys for many years, and still still very much have a stigma on us that we have to work through. Some of us don't even want to work through it because we're too busy wrapped up in the negative cultures of things that we do. A lot of it coerced into our minds, no difference than the indifference that I described. But accountability is important, even though that is something that is retorted against us when we try to stand up against what it is. Ultimately, that has been against us. It's your accountability. What about yourself? What about yourself? That's why I think it's important to account for myself when I say I too am growing to care. And genocide has helped, unfortunately, in that regard, because I definitely care. And when I think about what triggers me in regards to this conversation, I just thinking about how we were considered, black people, 3/5 of a human being, 500 years of slavery, 450, whatever it was, long damn time, half a millennia. You know, it's one of those situations where you look at the circumstances where Democrats are silencing Palestinians because, of course, as we've been saying in several videos in a row, if they have to bring validation to the truth on one side, then it tumbles forward to validation being given on in every aspect of this circumstance against genocide. They would then have to answer questions they don't want to answer, admit to wrongdoings that they don't want to admit to, and ultimately face consequences that will probably put a lot of them away for the rest of their lives. So as I said about them continuing to, you know, vilify protesters and putting out all of this propaganda against protesters, and then from there, everything that trickles down to just how they treat these protesters here in the States and also in other countries like Germany and the UK, it just becomes a situation where the cap has to keep going. The lie must be stood upon. And so we can't give Wizard Bassan 1 an Emmy nod without at least some resistance, because if we bring validation to her, then ultimately we're bringing validation to the truth about what it is that we're allowing the Zionists to do to these people. Then we have to take accountability for the fact that we've provided and supplied them not only weapons, but so much propaganda support so that they would be able to engage in what it is they're engaging in. So the Democrats are doing what they have to do to continue to be in power. And it's unfortunate because just like many who came before them, they're standing on the backs of oppressed people, if not terrorized and slaughtered victims. Talk about the hostages as if there haven't been many times over more hostages taken by the other side. All of the different things that we say about standing for the equality of human beings, and all the different things that we've put in our songs over the years in regards to our country, justice for all, and all these different things, phrases that don't actually align with what we do for reasons that may be biblical, not biblical, but religious in nature. Others may have strictly to do with the numbers in regards to financing the country's power for the next however long they're trying to plan this out. We need presence in the Middle East. We need in Israel, or we're going to lose a great deal of what it is that we have, and then it trickles down to us not having the norms and comforts that we have as Americans, and we live in our own blissful place, and we do it on the backs of oppressed people all over the world. And we stay in power, we stay as strong as we are because we do so. And it's important that the citizens of this country be comfortable with that, or else they're going to have to sacrifice more than they want to, and we are selfish. We all want to do what we want to do, but even now, we don't want to part with what it is that ultimately makes us comfortable. We won't inconvenience ourselves too much for the betterment of you. We too broke to donate. You understand what I'm saying? That type of thing. We are a spoiled nation, and this is how they keep us fed. And this is what I always say, accountability in regards to my own self is important, because I know that I still have some privilege within me in regards to that. When I see certain please donate here, the first thing I'm thinking is it's probably not legitimate, not because I'm so concerned about it not being legitimate, but because it gives me the excuse to not depart with any money. One needs to know the difference. Yeah, there are a lot of scammers out there, but there are also a lot of people who need your help. Are you not giving because you're concerned that they're scammers, or are you saying they could be scammers, which gives you the scapegoat of not donating? See, these are things demons that I fight with when I see people on Instagram asking for donations. This is why I'm telling you that a lot of what is wrong with the collective American mind is not as simple as either we support genocide or we don't. We need to undo some of the spoiled nature of what it is that we are, so that it is not as important that people do horrible things all over the world to keep us satisfied and comfortable. Everybody wants to fight their way to the top of the capitalistic totem pole, but what is required that that totem pole stand? If not for the suffering of children in other lands. So for me, I'm starting to understand that a little better. And it starts with the person in the mirror, but it also starts with using your voice for things that not only bring conversation to the certainty of a need for change within ourselves, but also as a collective in this Western world. It's not even limited to America. We're talking about Canada, UK, Australia, Europe. This consumerism that we've been coerced into, regardless if it comes naturally to us or if it was forced upon us by those who meant no good, we need to undo to whatever necessary degree, so that it is not necessary that other people suffer, so that we can fulfill our needs in that regard. Maybe it means sacrificing some things that you've had all your life. Maybe it means not having as much to eat that night so that others can be balanced in having. But when you realize that people are forced into that space without the choice, just so you can have, then you understand how unfair that is. I believe there's enough out there for us all to eat comfortably. But for whatever reason, the system that we have makes it so that we desire to keep others not in a position to get as much as us. It's like an overwhelming pecking order desire to have such a pecking order that we can stand on the backs of oppressed people without really considering the fact that it is that for which our need to stand that ultimately keeps them oppressed. That's not natural. It's just what we're used to. So yes, am I frustrated with the brother that was making fun of the lady who was screaming out the names and the ages of murdered children? I am frustrated with that brother, and I think that he, along with anyone else who would do what he did in that situation, disgraces his ancestors, his black and brown ancestors, who too were under the same oppression, if not different, but horrifying oppression. See, to me, it seems like trying to compare the two, I don't know how to look at that. Even within that, there's always some desire to be the most oppressed, or the one who went through the most, or a triggering nature to say, oh, my people went through 500 years of that, as opposed to you trying to wipe us out in a matter of 75. Who went through the worst? Was it the Native Americans? Was it the blacks? Was it the Palestine? I think that sheer way of looking at it is also something that we need to evolve through. Is to say, I don't care if you dealt with what as bad as I did, or if you got a little worse than me. We shouldn't want to see anybody go through that, and we should be coming together as a collective to say, I've been through something. I've seen this play being run on before. It ran on me first. Now they run it on you. They saw the need for me to survive because I could build what they needed built. Maybe they already have what they need built, so they're just wiping you out. They would have wiped me out too if I couldn't have built for them what I did. Or otherwise, if it were already built by someone else, what would they need me for? They would have tried to make my people extinct as well. We're fighting against the extinction of an entire race of people, is what I'm saying to you. Not to mention that there are people in Congo who've lost 13 million people, from what I understand, since 1996. Since Pac died, they've lost 13 million people. And we've understood this. We've called it out before this genocide in Palestine was even something that we were collectively aware of. We had been hearing about that, but did we change our ways? Did we raise the necessary awareness to spread the norm of having urgency for the suffering of others? I think not. Who's to say we won't burn for things we don't even know were bad in regards to what it is I just described? If there is a hell, I'm pretty sure it's going to be filled with us, America, Westerners. We're going to be the majority there because of stuff that we didn't even know we should care about, that we gave no interest in. So I'm not in the business of patting myself on the back for standing up for genocide when I know I turned my back to suffering right outside just because it was convenient to not consider others who may not have had as much. Maybe I was struggling in my own way, so I couldn't be bothered with their struggle. Maybe I'm too broke to donate in that same vein, you dig? It's awful either way. We need to grow out of that. We need to evolve out of that. It's okay to accept that we are still an evolving people, the human race. It's okay to say that we're not where we're going, that we still have some really, really immature ways of looking at what is necessary. As I was thinking about it in the shower, it's like a lot of us don't believe in ourselves enough to be able to liberate ourselves from that of whom is doing this to those Palestinian people. I think that's also part of it's a fear, a selfish fear to say if we remove the Zionists, how will we take care of certain things that they're responsible for, even though they're over there enacting some ungodly intention upon a whole race of people. If we don't continue to allow them the power and the respect to do the things that they do, we will have to sacrifice so much, and maybe we won't be able to replace them. That's what I think a lot of us are fearing. Who will be our lawyers, our bankers, our entertainment people? What will happen to our way of life? What about these contracts, millions of contracts? If they're the lawyers, if they're the doctors, what do we do if we don't have them to oversee so much of what it is they do? We want to sacrifice a bunch of Palestinian children who don't provide those same responsibilities. Can they replace them? And I think that's one of the biggest arguments that Zionist Jews have, is that because they contribute so much to all that we do, they should have the right to do whatever it is they want to. And if we believed in ourselves a little bit more, is to say we could do those jobs, we could learn what they learn, we could probably do it as well, if not better. And it won't completely collapse if they're not in place. That we don't need them at the expense of any and everything they choose. That's what I think is wrong with a lot of our views. We don't think we can survive without them, who's doing this to the Palestinians. We're worried so much about what happens if they're not in place, if they decide to collapse everything they control. How inconvenient will we become? What will happen in regards to the pecking order of those who are trying to come against us in regards to our power? What happens then? Does Russia take over our land? Does China take over our land? Does Africa then revolt and come back and take back what it is that we took from them? This is why we must allow the Zionists to do whatever they want to do, because they keep us within a position to control what it is that we do without being overthrown by someone else who would intend to. That's the fear. And because we have that fear, we allow Zionists to destroy an entire race of people in terror. Children with their heads missing and stuff like that. It's just collateral damage for the upkeep of our democracy. The upkeep of our hypocrisy and our cowardice is what it actually is. You want me to pick between the lesser of two evils when I believe in a God? What kind of sense does that make? You want me to pick one genocidal president or another? Why? Because they have to adhere to the same lobbyist group that ultimately we're talking about in regards to afraid of losing? I'm not afraid to lose them. Because I understand from a spiritual standpoint, the evil that they do, I don't want to be next to. So we can dismantle everything they have control over, because it's not sustainable anyway. From a spiritual standpoint, if they're going to stand on the backs of oppressed people, how has that worked out for empires of the past? Did it work out for them? No, it never works out. We're just the latest ones to do it, to find that out. So I'm telling y'all, it's just like anything else. If you don't clean it up, then it's just going to be dirty, and from there, everything that bad that comes toward dirt will come toward it. You got to clean your house, America. You got to clean your house, Western world. And you can't be so afraid and so insecure within yourself that you allow people who are deeply depraved to continue to determine whether or not you stand. That should not be it. Standing on the backs of everyone else is a lack of evolution within ourselves. We can get up without having them to lay down. We don't need to do that. And you need to believe in yourself enough to know that that is possible, that you can also stand while others are standing too, that we can work together just like any other organism, that we don't have to stand on each other in order to make things happen, in order to have a healthy banking system, a healthy democracy, a healthy entertainment world, or what have you. You don't have to do what you believe you have to do to allow people who are engaging in the slaughtering of children to continue to do so, so that you can stand. If that's what's required for you to stand, you should want to fall. It'd be wonderful if you did. And that's, I think, where the world is at this point. They're looking forward to all of us falling. Not because they hate us naturally. Not because they just want to see America fall without the presence of these problems, but because we cause these problems by being this way, by being this spoiled, by being this needy, by being this insecure, by thinking that we need to allow them who believe they are chosen to suffer that for which the Palestinians endure. We should not allow them to suffer them this way, man. Not so that we can stand, not so that we can have what's normal to us. We need to change that for which is normal. That's where it comes down to. I believe in my ability to find solutions as a person and as a country. I believe in my ability to find solutions. There is something else we can do other than going forward the way we've been. There is someone else who can do the job other than allowing those who are killing children and gaslighting all of us in regards to it continue doing what they're doing. We don't need them. In fact, we're better without that cancer in our society, and we know it. Or at least most of us who are spiritually and humanitarianly, if that's a word, wise, we know that. We know that the jig is up when it comes to Israel and all of their Zionist entities. The jig is up. The world that you control wasn't looking at you as a baby-killing nightmare. This is not the world you're in anymore. So whatever you're attached to is going to have that stigma attached to it for the rest of your lives and beyond. You should not be in control of anything. You need to be somewhere unlearning the things that you've learned before it leaves you extinct. That's the reality of the Zionists. I don't believe in wiping out people. I don't believe in making people extinct. But I can tell you this. If that for which is Zionist is no longer here, many others will continue to exist. That I know. They are human cancer. That's not even debatable at this point. And for whatever leverage they have over America in regards to continuing to allow for this to be seen out in the open and still have the confidence that they're going to get from us what they need to keep it going, that needs to change. And I'm not talking to the Democrats or Republicans because you're so very compromised that you are the irresponsible entity that needs to be removed in order for that to be possible. And that is understood at this point. I'm not looking at the AOCs, the Harris, the Obamas, Trumps, none of y'all. None of you guys are responsible enough of human beings to stand up against this terror that is the Zionist entity known as Israel. You are not. You are not in a space where you're going to do the right thing. I cannot trust you to do the right thing. I have my thoughts about why you're doing this, but whatever the case is, you cannot be trusted. That is proven to me over and over again. So I'm not talking to you when I say we need to do things differently. You're part of what needs to be changed. And honestly, if we're doing things correctly, a good portion of y'all are going to spend the rest of your lives in prison. That's the truth. A good portion of these Zionists who control Hollywood, media, and all these different things want to keep this lie going, want to continue to comfortably allow people to suffer. You guys deserve to be in prison just like any other murderers. And if we're doing things correctly in regards to cleaning up this place, that's exactly where we're going to send you. There needs to be someone more responsible, an actual adult in the room. That's what I'm saying. That's who I'm adhering to. That's who I'm speaking to, rather. That's who I'm hoping to appeal to, is the word. Not any of y'all childish, irresponsible actors that call themselves politicians or leaders. We don't find it responsible anymore to request anything of this nature from you anymore. You've lost that respect at this point from me. You've lost that. I don't want to appeal to the DNC. I don't need you to broadcast my voice in regards to freeing Palestine. You're sending them the bombs. I don't need to dance around with you. So that's really where I'm at in regards to politics. I just think there needs to be an adult in the room. I don't know where that entity is. I don't know if that entity is around, but we need to make sure that that comes around. And we start holding people accountable, each and every last one of them. As I told you guys, and I was not exaggerating, I think it's a collection of about 3 million people that have come together to allow this to happen. I really believe that. About 3 million people who are complicit, if not guilty, of genocide. Y'all gonna try to say it's Netanyahu and his lobby? No, it's much broader than that. And it's a lot of little companies and big companies alike, whales, people on surface level who are pouring dollars and interest into this nightmare. And I think if we're doing the difficult math, all of them will see the law. They will see the law. Justice will be found if we're doing things correctly. If we want to regain the credibility of the Western world, we need to put all of them, every single one of them, in prison for the rest of their entire lives. And that's exactly what I'm praying for. I'm not asking that anything other than justice and an end to this nightmare be the case. Everything else we'll have to work on over time. But right now, we need to find that adult in the room and empower them to do the difficult math of finding the justice necessary here. That's what needs to happen. So that the Palestinian people don't go extinct, and that we don't provide the human leverage to kill all of us eventually to these same nightmare devils. Because that's what it is, human leverage. You make them think that you can't live without them, and then proceed to allow them to extinct an entire people. Yeah, they're gonna turn those guns on you. Those bombs are just gonna be your kids, your grandkids, your great grandkids, if you don't find some responsibility within this to change what is wrong here. And so I've been telling y'all for over 300 days that genocide is wrong, that killing people just because of their race is wrong, that having a system that needs for the oppression of others in order for it to thrive is wrong. It should not be. You got to find a better way. You should want to. Humanity should want to find a better path to its thriving than that. We have suffered that too long. You have left too many people over the course of humanity, over the course of time, suffer the ills of what it is that I'm describing here. It ain't just the Palestinian people, or black people, Native American people, and many others that came before them. This conquering all nonsense, we gotta evolve through that. We gotta be a bit more dignified than that. We gotta be a bit more intentional on having good things reflect upon us as human beings than to continue to go forward and say, I'm gonna snatch the land, I'm gonna kill everybody, I'm gonna build big, and I'm gonna thrive. That's the way our ancestors did it. That is caveman shit. And if you're not smart enough or intelligent enough to find another way, then shame on you for being lesser than what we should be. That's my point of view, man. I don't need to conquer you. I don't need to conquer the land. We have more dignified ways of doing things now. We don't have to do what our ancestors did. We choose to. That's what people need to understand. They're lazy of the mind. They don't want to find a better way. They're allowing that for which is evil to continue to warp them away from better, more dignified, more human solutions. That's what it is. We're not evolving because some people don't want to evolve. They want people to be underneath them. They want to feel dignified that others are greater than them, or that they're greater than others, rather. They want that feeling of, I'm better than someone else. That small, little D energy, as they call it. That's what a lot of people are on. That's keeping us from evolving as a race of people, as an entire human race. That's caveman shit, man. That's all it is. Some of y'all want to keep throwing sticks and stones. You're never going to evolve if you don't choose to, from within yourself first, to see a way. That's what I'm saying, man. A lot of y'all done paid for a lot of bombs and you want to throw it somewhere because you wasted money on them. That type of stuff is keeping us from evolving as a people. And we're going to go extinct if you continue to let this type of thinking drive us forward into the future. We're going to go extinct. It ain't going to be nothing but roaches and animals running this earth. I'm telling you, we cannot survive this type of thing. We can't. So as a black person, I speak for myself when I say I'm triggered by seeing us treat these Palestinian people the way that we're treating them. Because at the end of the day, I saw you treat my ancestors that way. I seen the Native American ancestors treated that way, and the black ancestors treated that way. 3/5 of a human being, polio in the cloths that you gave them, whatever. You know, just screwing people over and gaslighting them to hell, and then call yourself making it a democracy afterwards, on the backs of the suffering of people. You're building your homes on the bones of babies. And you think I'm supposed to support you in continuing to lead? You are irresponsible. You should not be leading. You haven't grown up from the stuff that they were doing in the 1600s and before that. You're holding us back. So that's my point of view, man. That's what I wanted to get off my chest, man. I'm frustrated, but I understand that I'm living in a space where people need to evolve. We need to evolve or we're going to go extinct. It is that simple, man. Bdf 44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.